In this video, I'm going to go through and be making a histogram using Google Sheets. And then in a later video, I'll make a histogram using Desmos. And sort of you pick which strategy you like the best. Both programs work really well with making them, and it's sort of what do you want to get comfortable using. All right, so first off, when we're dealing with histograms, we want to think about, just like with pie charts, what type of data makes for the best use with our histograms. And in this case, we want quantitative data, data that measures something. Because what ends up happening along that horizontal axis is we have sort of a continuum of numbers, and we sort of split that those numbers into ranges, and we say how many numbers go into each range. And so it needs to be a continuum, not a sort. So it is a type of bar graph, but it's a bar graph that needs to be done with measurable quantities. So we have three sets of quantitative data in this particular spreadsheet with the presidents. Obviously, yes, the presidential number is a measure. It's how, what number in order they are, but it is not useful data. Names are not one, but their age at inauguration would be an example of one. So we're going to highlight that in yellow. And so we have age at inauguration, and then both of our heights are also quantitative data. They both measure something, and I just have it in two different units. The centimeters, gives you a little bigger range than the inches, which is partly why I included both, and you sort of could pick which one you're comfortable with. Now, with the histogram, you could use any of these to be, either any of these three topics to make your histogram from. Now, before you start on a histogram, you need to know how many bins or buckets you want to create. Basically, how many sets, sets within the data do I want to make that I sort my numbers into? And so to do that, you often are going to be told, but then sometimes you also get the decision as the person sort of looking at the data of how many makes sense and what makes the best data display. Now, in this case, you were told that you were going to create 8 bins or buckets. And so for my strategy when I do that, the first thing I want to do is I want to take my data and I want to sort it by smallest to largest so that I can sort of easily see the sort of range in my data. And so in Google Sheets, you can do this really easily. I highlight the column. I have nothing in here but my age data. And I've frozen the top row so it's not going to get weirdly sorted. And I've done this for a bunch of your spreadsheets. So, it's just a little trick to make life a little nicer for you. But we want to sort this. And so if you click the little arrow here, you're going to see an option here to sort sheet A to Z or Z to A. You might be going, but those are letters of the alphabet, not numbers. Well, A is low in the alphabet, Z is high in the alphabet. So low to high, A to Z, or Z to A. And it's really up to you and what you want. Now you'll notice in me sorting this, it sorted all the rows with it. So Theodore Roosevelt's data stayed sort of grouped together, which I like that to happen when I'm sort of messing with my sheets and reordering it. So I'm told that the lowest value is 42. So I'm just going to make a note to the side. Low 42. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I see that my highest age is Joe Biden, our current president. Oops, that went away. Low 42 and high 78. Oops, and I put that in the wrong spot. That's why it was giving me weirdness. We're just going to delete that there and we'll move it back up to where I want it. And sometimes. All right. Now, when I do this range, I don't actually find the real range of the data. I tend to go a little bigger because I would rather make my number line at that bottom some nicer intervals. So instead of 42, I'm going to actually count it at 40. And instead of 78, I'm going to go up to 80. And so if I'm doing the range here between those numbers, a range is just the high minus the low. So basically 80 minus 40. And I get a range of 40. Now, I want to split this into 8 groups. So I need to know how wide should each of my groups be? Well, basically, I'm going to take my range and I'm going to divide it by the number of buckets that I want. Well, we wanted 8 buckets. So 40 divided by 8, the 8 buckets I want, comes out to 5. So I'm going to make each of my bucket widths 5 years wide. So next step, let's build the histogram. If I'm using Google Sheets, it's just like with pie charts. I can insert chart or highlight my data. I can hit the chart button over here. Both will insert a chart. And you'll notice the default is a pie chart. And if you take a look at this pie chart, this is why we are not making a pie chart out of ages. This is not helpful data to me. Everything is about 2%. So we have a lot of different data points. What histograms do is they're sort of going to group them into sets so we can see sort of bigger trends. And so we're going to switch pie chart. And it happens because I've been clicking it a bunch, histograms right at the top of my Google Sheets. There is a chance it's not for you. So it might be way down here under other types of charts, and you'll notice histogram chart. Note, we don't want a column chart, and I'm just going to pull it up so you can see it. Does this look like a helpful data set used to me? No. And this makes absolutely no sense. So we don't want a column chart. We want a histogram. Now, it's going to default what it thinks your correct number of bins should be. And I'm going to tell you, it often does 6. And you'll notice it's already defaulted the range to those 2 values I came up with. It's going from 40 to 80. Google wants to sort of think like, I think, where they're like, let's make those numbers a little nicer. Now we're going to customize this a little because we want 8 bins. So you'll notice under the sort of customize tab histogram, we're given this bucket size and it defaults, but I don't want a default. I want it to be a size of 5. So I'm going to type in the size of the bucket that I came up with. And you'll notice now, in just switching it to 5, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bins. And what I like about these 8 bins now is I can really see that that sort of upper side of the data, there aren't many data points there. Where when we were at the auto, yeah, but like it seemed, the grouping seemed a little different. I sort of like the slightly more bars to the graph. And if you even made your bucket size smaller, you'll see, ooh, wow, that one point's way far away. So there's like, in playing with the size of the bucket, you really do get a different sense of what the data is going on. And we're going to go back to the 5 because that's what I asked for. Now, other things we want to update to our graph. I don't really want it to be called histogram. What is this, the age of what? So this is the age of U.S. presidents. Inauguration. But I need to say what is in this chart. What's in this chart? It's the ages of U.S. presidents. Like, that's the big idea. Now, it has down here age at inauguration. I'm sort of okay with that. I might put, you could put years if you really feel the need to it, like include the unit. It is years. I think age at inauguration is good. I put U.S. presidents up top, so I don't really need to re-add it down here. But I do want to add a vertical axis title. So our vertical axis on all these graphs, on all the histograms, it's just a frequency. It's how often that data point fell. So like if I look here, there are 7 presidents who got inaugurated between the ages of 45 and 50. There are 12 who are between the ages of 55 and 60. And so that's sort of what a histogram really gives for us. It sort of says like where are the most common age ranges that we're looking at. So this would be my histogram. You're then asked to sort of make a conclusion about the data, and maybe it's something like, oh wow, most of our presidents, the 2 largest groups for the presidents happen to be in the 50s. No wonder they can't relate to the young people. Something like that, think about it. What do you see in this data? Maybe you see something else. Maybe it's that, upper echelon, there's not many people way up there, or we've never had a president younger than 40. There's lots of things that you can sort of see in this chart. And right now we're going to talk about more specifics later on, but for now it's more just a general, like, what do we see? What do we notice? What do we wonder when we see our data displays? So hopefully this helps with creating a histogram within Google Sheets. In the next video, I will do a histogram in Desmos.